Hello and welcome to Pluribus Unum's Fireside Chats. Not as good as FDR's, but hey, it's something. A return to a sub-series that I thought was dead again? And this time it's gonna be slightly good? Huh? In this economy? Are you kidding me? But yeah, not much housekeeping for me to say, so let's get right into the news. First, we're gonna do some election updates for elections that I previously covered on the Fireside Chats. I guess the first one I wanted to say, I guess this episode is going to come out after the Irish election is done, but this is being recorded before the Irish election is done, so there's not much for me to really say about that. What I can talk about is the Bolivian election results, which happened right after the last episode was released. Rodrigo Paz has officially won the election. I actually, there are a lot of people who were, some people were kind of surprised that Paz won, but actually, honestly, the second that he became the person to be the nominee, I just figured that, I just kind of assumed that he would win. Look, Paz and Jorge Quiroga were both obviously bad candidates if you were on the left, obviously. I don't like either of them. One of them is a Christian Democrat, loser, and one of them is I guess also technically a Christian Democrat because their party is conservative liberal. It's they're right wing, but they're also they have some slight semblance of liberal-ish tendencies, broadly more just liberalizing the economy. But they're really obviously just tools for America. That's clearly what they are. They're just tools for America to get their interests down. Literally, Rodrigo Paz ran on capitalism for all. Meanwhile, Jorge Quiroga, they both ran on basically the same ideas, socialism is cringe, socialism is gay, capitalism is good, teaming up with the United States and Israel, and blah, blah, blah. That's basically, they both ran on that. Basically all three of the top candidates ran on that. Rodrigo Paz, Jorge Quiroga, and Samuel Doria Medina. The left-wing candidates, Andronico Rodriguez and Eduardo Castillo, were just not much factors in the race, because not only did they split the vote, but they also had Evo Morales basically telling all of his supporters, don't vote for either of these two traitors to the real leftism, which is, of course, me. But, when the second round came, it was just kind of obvious that Paz was going to win, because the first thing that happened is Samuel Doria Medina endorsed Rodrigo Paz, and Samuel Doria Medina, he got 1 million votes on his own. He got 1 million votes purely on his own, and the assumption is, those 1 million would probably go to Rodrigo Paz. Of course, we all know, that's not necessarily how it all works. Of course, not every single person who votes for one candidate in the first round is going to vote for the next candidate in the second round. We all know that, but, come on. Clearly, if a candidate endorses another candidate, there is a good chance that is going to lead to at least a decent number of the supporters to transition to that other candidate. And the second thing that made it big abundantly clear was the fact that Paz, even in the first round, had actually gotten support from some people who were in Evo Morales' circle. Evo Morales himself did not endorse him, obviously. Evo Morales endorsed a blank vote because, if I can't run, no one gets to be president. But there were some people in, the camp that did want them. In both the first and second rounds, Paz's whole, Paz got basically all of the places that Mas won the previous elections. Because clearly there was at least some people in those areas that were of the two, Paz is the better choice. It's the sad truth is that is true. Of the two, Paz is very slightly better. Just slightly better. Just slightly. It's not even a Kamala versus Trump situation, but it was literally I'm trying to think of a situation where it was two candidates that were just equally shitty. I don't know. I guess it would be, I don't know. No. Okay, you get my point. It's just those two. It was just literally not to do the meme, but it's Hitler versus 99% Hitler. It's again, the whole spiel about both of them was just one is capitalist, one is other capitalist. There's not much else I can really say. The best situation that we're getting is that, the only thing that was really somewhat redeeming for Paz was that Jorge Quiroga basically said, I want to get rid of every single thing that Evo Morales did. All of it is just going to be gone. Everything that Evo Morales and Luis Arce did, just gone. And then Rodrigo Paz is just well, I'm not going to get rid of all of it. We're probably going to, cut some things. We're probably going to, but we're going to keep some of it around. And it's that's basically the best you're going to get out of them. again, Bolivia is basically going to become a tool of the United States for like a certain amount of time. And, sadly, since the United States is already far right, I mean, that's just the sad thing. It's like, guys, did you honestly think that this, I just gotta be real, like, guys, this was going to happen. I told you this was going to happen, but no one listens to me apparently. And it's coinciding with more weird shifts in regards to Latin America by the administration. Like, because this is the weird thing. Like, when Biden was president, people were like getting mad, like, oh, he was like working with them and like teaming up with them and like blah blah. That's proof that they're evil and gross. It's like Trump is literally just planning to literally murder a ton of left wing leaders in Latin America. And it's like, yeah, that's clearly what was gonna happen. Like, let's first go into this one. This is a big one. Revealed. Police across the United States spread false rumors about Venezuelan gang threats. Claims that Tren de Aragua planned an attack on officers was widely shared, only for the FBI to later acknowledge that it was a mistaken internal file show. An unverified rumor that Venezuelan gang members were preparing to kill police officers spread like wildfire throughout U.S. law enforcement agencies last year, and internal records reveal that only for federal officials later quietly to acknowledge that the claim was mistaken. The intelligence report, which appears to have first been disseminated by a local New Mexican police department in July of 2024, suggests that Tren de Aragua gang had directed its members to fire on or attack law enforcement. The vague assertion quickly traveled among U.S. law enforcement agencies and even made its way to a formal proclamation by the Texas Governor Greg Abbott, and was repeated by Republican Congress members as evidence of the dangers of the Venezuelan immigrants and Democrats' border policies. Months later, however, the Federal Bureau of Investigation wrote that an internal report claims that TDA directive to actively target U.S. law enforcement was inaccurate. There's been no public acknowledgement of the mistakes. And this is the big thing. It's just like, guys, it's all lies. It's all a lie. You do know all of this is just a fucking lie, right? Like, every single aspect of this Tren de Aragua story is just completely false. Just unequivocally false. And the reason why it's so easily spread is because a lot of Americans are just fucking stupid and do not understand anything about Latin America. They just don't understand anything. They think Latin America and they think drugs. They think the drug cartels are ruling like they think the drug cartels basically like rule the entirety of Latin America. Like, there is no such thing as like actual governments in Latin America, and it's all just controlled by drug cartels. That's what they genuinely think. They genuinely think that. Even so-called leftist vanguards like fucking Hassan Piker just openly just say that like the drug cartels just control the Mexican government. It's just like, no, you're just lying. You're just lying and racist. That's just what it is. Like, the Tren de Aragua thing is like completely made up. Like, I mean, it's literally just governmental lying and like building. Like, it's literally like slow news day. We need to like make people scared. That's literally all it is. Are there gangs in Latin America with a lot of power due to the drug trade? Yes. But those policies, they only have that power because the United States and every single other nation happily makes it so that's possible. If drugs were legalized, they wouldn't have power because they couldn't trade illegal drugs if they were legal. And also if you deal with other issues of socioeconomic policies. And the further lie is that left-wing governments are the ones who are aiding and abetting this. That is just unequivocally untrue. That's just unequivocally untrue. In every single instance, it's right-wing governments that are the ones that have a hand in the drug trade. Felipe Calderon, the guy who started the Mexican drug war, the guy who he hired to start said drug war, was literally on the payroll of the cartels. The United States funded drug traffickers in the 1990s so that left-wing police people like the Sandinistas would be pushed against. The Contras were the ones selling the drugs. The Sandinistas were not selling the drugs. In Ecuador, the presidential policies of Rafael Correa literally led to Ecuador to be dubbed the safest nation in Latin America. Then, magically, when they got the right-wing government that were like, we're gonna be tough on crime, now magically the gangs are like really running and taking over the country. And if you thought about it for literally 2 seconds, you'd understand why, of course, these these right-wing people lead to more crime and more stuff. Because, like, here's the thing. Here's the thing. If the whole point of their policies is to arrest people who are connected to crime and drugs, what happens when you arrest them all? Then you're left with nothing else to do. So, of course, you have to keep that momentum going so you can keep doing the thing. Speaking of, Trump has decided to move on from Venezuela to another Latin American country, Colombia. Because randomly, he's just, like, I mean, not randomly, him and Gustavo Petro, the president of Colombia, and Donald Trump have been getting into bars with each other very recently. Gustavo Petro, if you don't remember, he very early on was like really mad at Donald Trump because Donald Trump was trying to like inhumanely treat immigrants in like Colombian immigrants, and he was just like, I'm not participating in your stupid fucking political theater, and he basically humiliated Trump on the world stage, and ever since then he has kept humiliating Trump on the world stage, and Trump has gotten very pissy at him. And he's made the claim that Gustavo Petro is a thug who is making a lot of drugs as the Colombian leader, like as he's basically like one of the big things that happened, like one of the most recent things that happened that got him into a lot of controversy was when Petro basically announced that he was going to be using his legal authority to actually like combat Donald Trump's policies. And during an interview that was like, it got a little bit heated. Like there was one point where the interview where Gustavo Petro literally said, basically said like, I mean, I don't even know if I could say what he said, but it was basically like it sounded like, it was basically like Gustavo Petro basically like, I'm not afraid to die. It's like it was like that, because it's just saying that publicly about the fucking United States president was kind of weird. It's kind of a big thing to say, but Gustavo Petro he's clearly not really scared of Donald Trump at all. And I'd like to just address that one. One of the other things that led to this controversy was like the president of Alvaro Uribe, who was basically dealing with a criminal trial in Colombia due to his previous corruption shenanigans. And basically, due to certain things, Uribe basically was let go. And then the United States basically cheerleaded, basically like, yes, he got out, yes. And it's like, but Uribe was well known for apparently having links to the Medellin cartel. That was what his first his first trial was literally like his first stint in politics was literally being tried for not tried, but like for being associated with a cartel. So it's like, this is the guy that you're like cheerleading for. Oh, by the way, just to mention, I couldn't find any statistics of the broader like drug trade in regards to Colombia in regards to this, but apparently I really can't find any statistics about this, but apparently like right before Gustavo Petro got into office, like there was already plans to like kind of it was already starting to drop like the amount of like drugs that were going on in fucking like Colombia. But again, I can't really find any information. All of the like statistics about this seem to like drop right before Gustavo Petro gets into office. A little bit suspicious. But anyways, let's move on to another Latin American country. And this is going to be a very interesting moment, because apparently it's official. Lula da Silva has announced that he will seek a fourth term in 2026. And strangely, he made this announcement during a trip to Asia. And now, the reason why he did this is because, apparently, this is the thing, apparently, like, on the wiki page, Lula had already kind of announced that he was, like, he had already kind of told, like, the people in his circles that he was already kind of interested in running for another term. But I think this is the first time he's made, like, official that he really does intend to seek another term. And it seems the reason for that is just because I guess no one else wanted to go? I guess no one else wanted the job, apparently. Like, it just seems to be it, because it seems like, because if you remember, I covered this story previously, but like, they wanted, like, they've been trying desperately to get a new face in Brazil for a while, but it seems like they're just so concerned with the idea that they would lose that their only option left is just running Lula again. Now, me personally, I hope that this is just kind of, I love Lula. I love Lula. Don't get me wrong. On my Pink Tide ranking video, he was number 1. But I am saying I think it would be best if the Brazilian left were to find a new person. I really do think that they need to find a new guy or girl. Either or is fine. I mean, I've said this before. the Latin American left has a little bit of a problem trying to find new faces to run candidates. I mean, the worldwide left kind of has that problem already, but like, especially the Latin American left seems to have like a really big problem with like personality cults. Like, they really didn't have a problem with just finding a new face for the candidates, as we've just shown with Bolivia. They couldn't find a new face after Evo Morales left, so they were just like, we're not gonna do that. Argentina had a little bit of a problem with that, and that led them to have Sergio Massa be the candidate to run against Javier Milei, and very clearly that didn't work out so well. They had to run Lula in 2018, and then, well, of course, they couldn't get they couldn't get a person to run in that election either. And, well, they were forced to kind of just have that. And that's the point. They do need a new face. They need a new face to kind of be in the crowd. Like, they need a new person. And, I mean, if it ultimately still has to be Lula, I guess I would support Lula before anyone else. But I'm just saying I would prefer a new face. Especially, you know, considering, you know, would give me more to talk about in the next fucking Brazilian election video. But anyways, not much else for me to say on that. So let's move on to the fact that how, while they get to have elections, we don't. Basically, the GOP is basically announcing they basically said this before, but they're basically all but confirming they're trying to rig the next two elections. The biggest one, the one that has like a news article that is associated with it, is like the fact that the Republicans have basically just gerrymandered North Carolina. Again, like, they do this all the time. Like, North Carolina Republicans have passed a new congressional map Wednesday that will likely give the GOP one more red-leaning seat in next year's midterms. This came after the fact that they literally were... If you don't remember how North Carolina's gerrymandering works, like, basically, here's how it works. North Carolina, like, the Republicans gerrymander North Carolina, and then we never really have to, like, fight them because, like, you keep drawing all the black people in 3 districts. Because that's what keeps happening. They keep drawing black people into 3 districts. And then eventually we ended up proving it so much that they literally were forced to draw fair districts. So it was literally like they drew like 4, let me think. There were 14 seats. Like, where 2 of them were basically, like, 2 of them were drawn to be like we basically drew it so it was like 5 were safe blue, 7 were safe red, and 2 were basically drawn to be swing seats. But what ended up happening was that those 2 swing seats ended up flipping blue, so they got mad. So the North Carolina Republicans basically drew, like, districts to kill, like, not kill, but, like, get rid of 3 of the people who were running, like 3 of the incumbent Democrats, Kathy Minning, Wiley Nickel, and Jeff Jackson. I think technically they were trying to get rid of Don Davis too, but they had to draw it so that he was, like, in a flippable seat, but it had, like, still a little bit of a lean to the Republicans. I think it had, like, a little bit of a lean, but it was, like, still enough of a lean whereas, like, he could still hypothetically win, and he ended up winning. And, like every time a Republican sees a black person, they want him gone, so, you know, they were like, hey, let's just do another map. Because apparently, like, the head of the fucking, like, North Carolina State Senate is having, like, a possible primary challenge for something. I don't remember if he's trying to run for a higher office or if he's running for his office and he's just facing a primary bid. And he's basically, like, trying to prove to Donald Trump that he's a really good throat goat. So, you know, he's just doing everything in his power to make it so that, you know, Donald Trump gets what he wants. And that it's, of course, leading to, like, 15 more seats, like, saying we're going to just, like, we're a bunch of these blue seats are going to draw. And Republicans are stupid. They don't understand how this works. And they're somehow blaming the Democrats for this. And it's like... Now, normally, in a situation like this, we would just basically wait until the North Carolina Democrats can prove that this was obviously a racial gerrymandering, which it obviously is. But, if you remember, currently the Supreme Court is actually debating on whether or not Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, which allows for majority-minority districts to be allowed, is actually being debated right now. So, the question is, of course, are they going to continue with this? Or are they going to not do this? And then, right around that same time, when this is being done, Donald Trump basically announces that he is using Tulsi Gabbard and Kash Patel to try and rig the 2028 elections. Or, he says, like, we're going to make sure that there are, quote-unquote, no elections like 2020 again. So, in other words, there are going to be no free and fair elections where people can vote. Obviously, these would go into effect during the 2026 midterms, and possibly go into effect in the 2028 election, where Steve Bannon has literally announced that he is literally pushing for an agenda where he will try to get Donald Trump to be the nominee in 2028, and he will be the president in 2028, and that people have to quote-unquote get used to that. And the best liberals can say is, that's illegal, and we'll just run Obama against you. Yeah, and these are the same guys that literally will openly admit that they are actively trying to gerrymander Democrats out of the office, and somehow we're supposed to, catch them in like a logic loop. Dude, there's a bill in the United States Congress to allow Donald Trump to get a third term, but explicitly only him. You guys don't know that, Obama ready to turn. That's not an option. That's not an option. That's not happening. God, I'm so fucking tired of you. I'm sick and fucking tired of these fucking limp dick idiots. Guys, right now, they are refusing to seat a democratically elected member of Congress. Right now, even though there is nothing preventing them from doing so. They're just doing it. This guy literally told Republican state governors, find me votes. And when they said no, he tried to overthrow the United States government. And for some reason, you guys didn't fucking arrest him. Well, because if Joe Biden arrested him, that would have been an optics nightmare, considering Joe Biden was gonna run. Don't have him run! If him and Kamala were not options, then this wouldn't have been an issue. Have it so that their job is to get Donald Trump in jail, and then that's it. That's their only duty of the world. But no, the best you guys could have done was giving me 19,000 dead Palestinian babies. That's the best you guys could have given me. Oh, you know what? I'm fine with that. You know what? Yeah, I understand. I decided, me and a lot of other people on the left, we decided that, even though you guys were fucking useless cunts, we were nice and gave you a little bit of a saving grace. We understand that there's more fish to fry than just the stupid petty squabbling with each other. You know what? We'll back you this one time. Maybe you guys can do the same to us. Oh wait, when we get nominated, you guys don't want us to be the candidates. In fact, you guys are gonna spend your every waking moments sitting on your fucking thumbs and just not doing anything. So good Democratic leadership, and they can't even back their own fucking nominee in their own fucking state. Actually, Hakeem Jeffries endorsed him just today. Wow, he endorsed the nominee in his own fucking city, a week before the election. If I were Zohran, I would have literally just said, no, Hakeem, go fuck yourself. You chose to not endorse me. You're not getting credit for my win. But anyways, that's not important. That's not important. Let's move on to the more important news story of this week. Graham Platner got a tattoo in the army. I guess let me at least pretend that this news story is somewhat important in regards to all the other things that I've said in this video thus far, and what I'll say in the future of this video. So it was discovered that Graham Platner, basically, Graham Platner, magically the opposition has gotten really good at doing opposition research. They couldn't figure out that George Santos was literally a fucking liar for his entire life. But when it was time for Graham Platner to possibly be the Democratic nominee in Maine, all of a sudden, they pull out all of the opposition research in this bid. Somehow they're able to pinpoint basically everything about his life from the year 2003 to fucking now. Somehow they're able to figure out every single thing that has been going on. The first messages that were revealed were Graham Platner said that he was a communist and a socialist. Yeah, I knew that. I knew that already. What? I knew that. Oh yeah, well if that doesn't scare you, Graham Platner had given military training to the Socialist Rifle Association. So, in other words, he invoked his Second Amendment rights and legally purchased firearms, and legally taught other people how to use said firearms. Yeah, and this was not a revelation to me. I was literally told this the day he announced his bid. Oh yeah, well, Graham Platner was, when he was in the military, he got a tattoo that looks kind of like a Nazi tattoo Oh, he got like a swastika or something? No, he got a Topempetkov. What? A Totenkov. Oh yeah, I recognize the symbol. It's not really that prevalent in like Nazi circles. It's kind of like one you got to be a bit more discreet about. I mean, okay. Well, what does Graham have to say? Well, Graham says that he got it when he was in the military. He's like, oh, that makes sense. That makes sense 100%. Like, he literally said that he went to Croatia during one of his combat tours, and then he got drunk and decided and looked at the tattoo parlor and that tattoo was on like the wall, and he said, I want that tattoo, and they just got it. And apparently he didn't know what the symbol meant until recently. Oh, well, that's actually contradicted by Graham Platner's life. It's like, what? Okay, huh? What do you mean? Well, he said that he learned it months ago. It's like, yeah, that's recent. Like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean? Like, months can be recent. Like, what? Like what? Did he learn about like 2 months ago? Like 3 months ago? Like how many months ago? Like, did he, like, I mean, you when you say months ago, you usually mean like 1 or 2 months. You don't mean like a long time ago. You usually use a larger time frame to like say that. Like, if he learned about it in January, you wouldn't say he learned about it months ago. You'd say he learned about it earlier this year. And some people say that Graham Platner was already talking about replacing it by the time the news story broke. So it was like, yeah, and like what? It's like literally the first thing that I said when I saw that was like, wow, it's so tragic. The U.S. military is so fascist that literally that kind of symbol can be part of a military, and they're able to give it someone like Graham Platner, who was already pretty left-leaning before he joined the military, to be normalized into thinking that that's okay. And for some reason, nobody wants to address that point when I make it. Oh yeah, well, he has another tattoo that has 1919 on it, so clearly that's another fascist symbol. It's like, no, it's not. That's a symbol for like a clearing crew. What are you talking about? That is literally not a fascist symbol. 1919 was the year they were founded. Like, dude, you guys are just saying like you guys know a lot more about like fascist dog whistles than I do. Like what are you, how is this, like, how did those things go into your mind before anything else? Like, this news story could have almost worked if they didn't literally fucking release the fucking messages right beforehand that were like, Graham Platner saying, like, I am a communist, and I think that we need to make sure that if we can't fight with our words, we have to fight with more. Like, dude, Graham Platner basically had messages on his private Reddit account saying that he wanted to murder Nazis, and now you're going to be like, oh, Graham Platner's a Nazi. It's like, what? And then they apparently say that there's like going to be a bigger revelation in the future. But the first thing that came up, like right after that was like basically revealed accounts like, oh, he said the F slur a couple of times. It's like, ooh, scary. Again, given Graham Platner's platform literally has it so that he's like, I will stand in the way of people who are trying to oppress the LGBTQ of our society. Clearly, he was either already kind of left-leaning in regards to LGBTQ issues, and then the military, like, beat that out of him for some reason. Like, that's the thing. Again, my thesis has never been broken on this. My thesis has always been on this issue. The U.S. military is so fascist, so right-wing, so reactionary, that even someone like Graham Platner, who literally walked into the military being an anti-Iraq war protester and walked out thinking that a tattoo that resembled a Totenkov was actually a normal thing to have. So unless you're one of those people that just overwhelmingly just says like the entire military is fucked and like fuck the military and stuff, unless you're one of those people, then you don't have a leg to stand on this issue. A majority of these people are also people who will say, support our troops, nah, 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 nah. Because that's like the typical spiel you have to say to get elected. And it's like, well, no offense, but this is what the U.S. military is like, guys. I'm sorry. The best you're gonna get are people that went through this and have gotten out of it. Like Graham. And guys, Bernie Sanders has explicitly said that this situation doesn't bother him because he fully acknowledges the situation that Graham Platner was in that led to him doing this. And now, Graham Platner is redeemed on this issue. And another thing that really just kind of like makes people like, this was very clearly like a bigger planned op than it actually ended up being, was this fact. One of the other candidates in this race was a woman by the name of Daria Smith Rodriguez, a former civilian contracting officer for the U.S. Air Force. Yeah, and by the way, further proof that a lot of these people are kind of like fakers in regards to this. After like saying like we don't like Platner no more, all of a sudden a lot of these people start shifting to her. Like, and that's the thing, they started shifting to her because she had similar rhetoric to Platner. And then coincidentally, around this time while this was going on, she decides to suspend her bid and endorse Janet Mills. Interesting. So right around the time that supposedly Platner is going to fail and lose support, and some support is going to shift naturally towards her, magically, Dara Smith decides to support the candidate that is clearly trying to take down Platner. Interesting. And we could also point out the massive hypocrisy in this by pointing out the fact that one day the Democrats are like, oh, the woke left are so woke left. And now all of a sudden they're like, we need to cancel Graham Platner for not being woke enough. When he was in the military, he said some very strange, ewy things that were not woke. It's like, no fucking shit. Is he saying that now? And this is even going so far as where I'm starting to realize a lot of people, even on the fucking like online left, are just stupid. Because it's just like a lot of them are even going so far as to be like, he is the next John Fetterman. Like they say that this is like proof that like when Graham Platner gets elected, or if he gets elected, he'll like do a heel turn coat like fucking John Fetterman, because they were like both vaguely populist working class type candidates and blah blah blah. They said all these things, and then when they end up getting elected, they're going to magically do a heel turn to the right because blah 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 blah. It's like, guys, you do know Graham Platner and John Fetterman are two completely different people with completely different political histories that were completely different as to why. Like, I can't speak for any of you, but the reason why I supported John Fetterman was not because I looked at this guy and said, oh, he looks vaguely working class, cool, I support him. That wasn't the same reason I backed fucking Platner. And that's another thing that's been going on. Like, some people are even going so far as to be like, Graham Platner, his dad was this. His dad did da-da-da-da-da. And his blah, blah, blah. Like they're pointing out, like, oh, well, Graham Platner's not like this working class hero that you think. He's actually pretty well off. It's like, so what? I don't fucking care. I don't care. What do you mean? This is nothing. I didn't look at Graham Platner. Like, I didn't give it. Like, people were like, oh, he's this cool oyster. I don't give a fuck about his fucking oyster farming. I don't care about that. John Fetterman was a mayor and a lieutenant governor who had a platform and stuff that made me think that he was a good candidate. That's what drew me to him. Not that he was like, oh, he had a vaguely populist looking type energy. If that's why you supported John Fetterman, that's a fucking you problem. If you guys didn't do your fucking research before, even I did research, and I knew Fetterman was shifting rightward, but I foolishly thought that it was like a ploy to get more mainstream attention. That was my error, and I fully acknowledge that error, obviously. But Graham Platner, one, hasn't done that, and two, is vastly different than him. He, again, as I mentioned before, he founded his Socialist Rifle Association in his fucking home state. The messages that were leaked of him are him literally saying that he was a fucking communist. I'm gonna take a wild guess. I don't think John Fetterman ever called himself a communist. Literally, the only time that has ever been accused of like him being like a socialist was when he applied for a DSA endorsement and they didn't give it to him. And that was misconstrued by a lot of the media and like left-wing punditry that he was a DSA member. And Graham Platner's platform is very much more explicitly left-wing than fucking John Fetterman. Like Platner can say all he wants. I'm not a communist, I'm not a socialist. You are. He is. Guys, come on. He is. You don't form the Socialist Rifle Association in Maine and then not be a socialist, dude. Come on. Like, that's like the closest thing you're getting into a rightward shift of Platner, that he's just not calling himself a socialist. Fetterman literally moderated his stances when he became lieutenant governor of Pennsylvania. There's like actual like lore and understanding of like real guys. You just don't understand actual politics. Honestly, it just doesn't seem. That seems like a you fault. Like, my problem was that I fell for it, and that was my error. But like Platner specifically doesn't see like. what's the game plan? Like, oh, he was a Nazi and also a socialist and also a communist. Like, you can't do both things. Is he a fascist or is he an anti-fascist? Which is it? Is he Antifa super soldier or is he a fucking secret Hitler? And just to clarify, no, this has not ruined any of my fervor for Platner. In fact, I actually think I might be more in favor of Platner than I was before, purely because I'm just purely like, I don't give a fuck face. I don't give a fuck. Guys, the last news story I talked about was literally how Donald Trump is planning to rig the 2026 and 2028 elections. You think I have time to give a shit about, oh, Platner isn't as leftier than those? I don't fucking care. We need 535 Graham Platners in the Senate and House ASAP. Dude, like I said before, Graham Platner, he has messages on that, like, you literally leaked the messages of him saying he wanted to murder fascists, and then somehow you're going to convince me, oh, you see, he's actually not going to combat Donald Trump as hard as we want him to be. It's like, are you sure about that? And one last thing I want to say, because, like, some people are even going so far as to say, since this happened way so early, what we should do now is that we should force Graham Platner to drop out and then just pick a new candidate. Pick a Graham Platner without baggage. Okay, quick question. Who is it? First, I want you to tell me, who is the person, who is the Graham Platner without baggage? Tell me, who is the Graham Platner without baggage? Who is it? First of all, and this is the thing, you can say whoever you want, but that doesn't fucking matter, because here's the thing. You need to understand this. Like, Graham Platner, even after this scandal happened, polls have been released that have shown that he is overwhelmingly more popular than Janet Mills because, again, she is a terrible governor. The fact that she was chosen for this choice was fucking stupid. Like, picking Roy Cooper in North Carolina makes sense because everyone fucking loves him, but picking Janet Mills in Maine makes sense because nobody fucking likes her. Even after the scandal, people are like, Graham Platner is based, and we want Graham Platner across all the ideological spectrum. Men, women, postgraduate, non-graduates, even Republican posters say that Graham Platner is the one who should be the nominee. He's still packing stadiums full of people after the controversy. And you're just saying, throw all that shit away and pick someone else. That's not going to fucking happen. Because if Graham Platner drops out of this race, then that will just be another example of the Democratic Party telling you who you can and cannot back for office. They've done their vetting, and they say this candidate you're excited for, you can't back them. You have to back their octogenarian fucking stupid rotting bitch instead. The 2060 presidential primary, what's that? All you young men, you're excited to vote for Bernie Sanders? Too bad. You get Hillary Clinton instead. Colorado District 6? What's that? You guys are interested in backing Levi Tillman, possibly? Nah, we're already giving our support and endorsement to Jason Crow. 2020 primary? Possibly interested in backing Bernie Sanders, or maybe even one of the many other candidates that we have to offer? Fuck that. You're getting dying old cancer man. 2020 North Carolina Senate primary. Hey, are you possibly interested in backing the person who is like one of the rising stars of the North Carolina Democratic Party, Jeff Jackson? Well, since he's not going to listen to us 100% of the time, we want you to back Cal Cunningham instead. Hey, are you sick and tired of Suzanne Collins in the 2020 Maine race and possibly interested in backing a Democratic candidate? Like, you guys raised like $6 million on your own for any candidate. So we're gonna pick Sarah Gideon to be that candidate. You guys don't get a choice in the matter. What's that? You guys picked India Walton over the fucking old as fuck Byron Brown? Sucks for you, he's running a write-in bid. What's that? You guys are interested in backing a person who is in favor of actually peaceful resolutions in the Middle East? Who actually wants to speak for the Jewish community? Too bad, he was the wrong kind of Jew. You're back, we're getting Haley Stevens. What's that? You're interested in Marie Newman, who we once pitched as a rising star? Well, that sucks for you. You get Sean Casten. What's that? Jeff Jackson actually grew some balls and actually decided to run against us this time? And he's running against two other prominent candidates, one of which actually we snubbed prior? Well, too bad. We're gonna pick the candidate for you anyways. What's that? You guys don't like old dying cancer man and are actually interested in holding a primary? Nah, we're just gonna go ahead and have him run basically unopposed. And now the DSCC is getting involved in Minnesota, Michigan, and Maine to force more candidates onto you. People don't fucking want that. Especially when it's coming from these same people who are just sitting there with their thumbs in their ass, not fighting Donald Trump. Graham Platner is not good because he's Graham Platner. I literally do not give that much of a shit about Graham Platner as a person. I don't. I genuinely don't. Like, some people are like, oh, you like the guy. I don't like the guy. He is not relevant to me. If Graham Platner loses in the race, he's out of my mind the next day. I unfollow him. He disappears from me until he comes back to run for another office. Graham Platner, like every politician, is just a vehicle for the policies and the ideas and the platform. That's all he is. That's all he is. That's all he'll ever be. If Graham Platner sucks like John Fetterman has proven himself as a failure, we run against him. None of these politicians are safe, and they shouldn't be. That's not the point. The point is they are public servants, and we're supposed to make sure that they actually serve us, not be served them by a rich elite. So yeah, 100% still with Graham. If you're faltering on this, then you're part of the op, and you need to get out of the way and stop being relevant. We have bigger fish to fry than worrying about whether or not a fucking candidate said like something like cringy like fucking 10 or 12 years ago. Anyways, with that out of the way, let's move on to the main topic of this video. Is this going to be the main topic? I don't know. I've talked a lot. I ranted a lot more than in the fucking news stories than I thought I would. But hey, I'm very in that phase. But as I mentioned before, this is going to be a positive thoughts on. And, well, it's kind of a positive thoughts on. Like, to get the BS out of the way, I like the person or people that I'm discussing in this video. That is not the part that's going to be negative. What's negative is more of the situation surrounding them and other things. It's not really about this page itself. We're going to talk about them, obviously, but this is more in regards to like a broader ideological thing, which I've talked about before, and I'll probably talk about a lot more in the future. But first, let's just get into it. Who am I even talking about? Well, I'll just start by just going over like the story that I think a lot of us probably have. One day we were all probably like if you're a lefty on Twitter, you know, I would assume a lot of you are. We were probably scrolling on a Twitter or whatever, and just and then randomly we got like a post of like a recommendation. Like we either got a recommendation for this page or like a post from this page in our For You tab or something like that, or like a retweet from somebody of a Twitter page simply called TrackAIPAC, where it would usually be a picture of a candidate with how much money they received from the Zionist lobby. Specifically AIPAC, but they do include other donors like Democratic Majority for Israel, Republican Jewish Coalition, and even J Street. And that was it. Like, it's a very simple page, like, really. And, you know, some people were, like, a little skeptical of the page. Some people were, like, just kind of, like, you know, following and retweeting it, you know, whatever. Because, again, it's just a simple concept. It's just very simple, you know. It was a page that just said, like, this candidate receives, like, this politician receives this much money from the Zionist lobby. That's basically all it is. Where it would usually have like a red bloodied background where it was like, you know, representative like, oh, the blood of the people of Palestine are on their hands because, you know, they are, of course, you know, getting money from AIPAC or another Zionist group. Or, in rare cases, they would publish pictures of the coveted green graphic, which was accompanied by the fabled $0.00 from the Israeli lobby. Like, usually they would have, like, captions of the sort, like, you know, like, it would be, like, a politician would tweet out, like, we stand with the hostages who are being stolen by Gaza or Hamas. And then, TrackAIPAC would reply with, this politician has received $2 million from AIPAC in their entire career. Or when someone like AOC or, like, Rashid Tlaib would say something like, you know, we believe Palestinian babies deserve to live, they'd be like, go, Queen, we stan you, AOC. She's received zero money from the AIPAC. I was a little bit skeptical of the page at first because, you know, on the internet, guys, you guys gotta be very careful because sometimes when people call themselves anti-Zionist, they mean something else. But you get my point. Like there was like another page where it was like called like I forget what it was fucking called, but it was like a page that similarly branded itself as like an anti-Zionist page, and then you know it was basically just run by a grouper. So I was like, yeah. And then, you know, But then I started telling you, like, okay, like, they were like basically saying yes to the squad. So I was like, okay, so they're clearly not groypers. They wouldn't be giving these guys props if they were groypers. So I followed them, and they're basically, yeah, they're fine. And they also have 2 more pages of like a broader like collective called PAC Track. Like basically, it evolved from just being this page to being like 3 pages where they would cover, like, one would be Oil PAC Tracker and one would be Pharma PAC Tracker. Of course, finding out who is controlled by Oil PAC money and who's controlled by Pharma PAC money. The page even going so far as that they have launched an official website that not only tracks members of Congress and the presidential administration, but also tracks all, or at least a lot of, the new candidates that are out there. 25 Israel First candidates and 36 candidates that have earned their endorsement. And they've even started a political action committee of their own called Citizens Against AIPAC Corruption, with the idea that the people in power, that people power, will make AIPAC less of a force in U.S. politics. The PAC and their endorsements being dictated by the following rules. 1. Reject support from AIPAC and their allies. 2. Call for an immediate and permanent ceasefire. 3. Support an arms embargo conditioning military aid to Israel. 4. Support Palestinian rights and statehood. 5. Oppose lobbying by unregistered agents of Israel. And 6. Support overturning Citizens United. 6 rules that seem pretty simple in retrospect, but, sadly, a lot of members of the U.S. Congress don't really understand that rule. But anyways, big shock of all shocks was that it's working. Like, TrackAIPAC is definitely not the sole or first reason why, but TrackAIPAC obviously plays a role in the U.S., and particularly Democrats, shifting on Israel. More anti-Zionist candidates are gaining prominence, Graham Platner, Abdul El-Sayed. Some are flat out winning in primaries, like Zohra Mamdani and Afshin Ben, and even some people who were de facto Zionists, Seth Moulton and Mallory McMorrow, have now changed their tune a tad, not too much, obviously they don't change too much, but like they have to change a little bit. Like I think Mallory McMorrow, especially today, I think like just today, like she basically released an interview where she basically says like, yeah, I basically still support Israel 100%, but I'm just not really a fan of AIPAC or whatever. And Seth Moulton similarly is like that, but like they have to still change their tune a tad. Like, I mean, one thing is even point out is that they even started tracking a lot of members of Congress of how many people have said the word genocide to describe the Palestinian struggle. A thing that it was at the beginning of the genocide, a thing that only like 5 members of Congress said, but now it's apparently grown to be at least double digits. And of course, due to that fact, many people have been paying a lot of attention to TrackAIPAC. One of the first things I saw that got a lot of people's attention was when apparently someone photoshopped Nick Fuentes on TrackAIPAC cards, and then TrackAIPAC responded basically saying like they fucking hate Nick Fuentes and don't use their fucking like page to lie about him. Like, this was before they were like very obviously left leaning, with that like spiel that they posted with a thing. But I soon followed them after that because I to verify. Like, I had to verify. Are you one of them? But you're apparently not. So yeah, cool. I think the only thing that was perceived to be like a drama to an extent before, I guess, the bigger one was basically like, there was like one thing that was like a little bit, like, there's a little bit of things that were a little bit like unclear about like how the page kind of worked. Like as the page is called TrackAIPAC, there's a little bit of an issue with that. Some people are a little confused because it's like, what does that mean? Like, but again, as I mentioned before, they don't track just AIPAC. They track a lot of. We'll get to that. I guess this is where I'm going to explain a bit more when I get into, the controversy, or controversy, quote unquote. Okay, so basically it was like Al Green. Remember when Al Green protested against Donald Trump's fake State of the Union address? Al Green started trending on Twitter. Al Green was like, oh, this is fucking stupid. I hate you. And he's like, and then after he started trending, TrackAIPAC posted him in a green graphic that said $0 from AIPAC. Typical stuff. And this is actually, this is the controversy that's a little bit important because this is a controversy I technically started. But, it's not, controversy is like very minute, but it's just a small gripe that I had. Okay, so, but I was like, wait, I was a little confused when I saw that graphic. I'm like, wait, I distinctly remember seeing an Al Green graphic that had him in like the blood-stained, like whatever. I went to their site. Sure enough, it was still there. And it had, like, him receiving $24,750 from J Street. And that led me to be confused. I'm like, wait. Because I remember this. It's like, so I remember you include J Street sometimes, and sometimes you don't include J Street. So I'm like, what is it? Like, why is it the kiss of death here sometimes, and why is it not the other times? And they're basically, yeah, I mean, and I don't know, like, we didn't agree on, we didn't have a consensus at the time. It's like a thing, it's a thing they eventually would explicitly say, I mean, on their site, and we'll get into that in a second. But, like, basically, like, let's just explain a little bit. For those who don't know, J Street, and, you know, some people are a little bit confused about the name. No, the J doesn't stand for that. It stands for the fact that in Capitol Hill, like, apparently it's like H Street and K Street, and apparently J is just kind of like, they're just signifying that they're in the middle of those two. But J Street is the de facto liberal Zionist lobby group. It's a, well, I mean, I guess technically, technically, it's a labor Zionist group. I wouldn't even necessarily call it that far. It's a little complicated because, like literally, it's like, it's very complicated because, like, it supports a two-state solution, and it's generally regarded as the most left-leaning of the Israeli PACs. Like, you know, there are a lot of Israeli PACs in Congress. You know, each party has their own, like, Zionist PAC. AIPAC is perceived to be, like, you know, the extremely radical Zionist one that wants every single Palestinian to die. Meanwhile, J Street was for the people who support Israel that don't want every single Palestinian to die. Funnily enough, in doing research for this episode, I ended up discovering that former Republican Representative Walter B. Jones was actually a J Street endorsed candidate because he opposed sanctions on Iran and called for the U.S. to halt the settlements. So again, that's the point. Those were things that J Street were in favor of. Meanwhile, AIPAC was not in favor of those things. And it was due to that fact, and the fact that sometimes, in very rare cases, the people who were supported by J Street wouldn't back Israel. Like, sometimes they wouldn't. Like, for example, Walter B. Jones and a couple of other people. Like, I think it was Walter B. Jones, Andre Carson, and someone else. I forget who the third person was, but it was like three representatives. Those three did not support backing for the Iron Dome in one of the NDAAs, and then they basically were like, oh, the problem is that they seem to just disagree with, like, other aspects of the NDAA. It wasn't the fact that it was, like, the West Iron Dome funding that they had a problem with. It was other things that they had a problem with. But it was stuff like that that made people, like, a little bit, like to lead to the accusation that J Street was actually secretly anti-Zionist. And then actual anti-Zionists started showing up, so J Street has actually had to burn the bridge with the popular left-leaning members of Congress because they aren't even liberal Zionists. But I think the first official polling of endorsements that J Street did was of Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, and Jamal Bowman, because they were I guess we were, like, seen as, like, perceived to be, like, at least favorable enough to liberal Zionism that they could be elected, but then when they actually got in, it's like, they were not. And due to that fact, it's really very confusing. Like, as TrackAIPAC's site says, J Street is not an automatic disqualifier for us due to their inconsistencies in rhetoric and policy. We evaluate candidates based on lobby contributions and voting record on Israel-Palestine issues. And some of their endorsements are backed by J Street, and some of yours too. You know, Bernie Sanders, Chuy Garcia, Andre Carson, etc. Like, the only progressive Dems that don't seem to be backed by J Street are the Squad, because they're actually anti-Zionist. Some people will point like, oh, they were backed at one point, but it's like, yeah, and then they actually start voting on issues of Israel-Palestine. It's like, oh, well, clearly they drifted apart due to that idea. And I personally think TrackAIPAC is doing a pretty good job given to who they are. And, you know, I'm just like, yeah, this page is pretty fine. Some people are, of course, not fans of TrackAIPAC. Of course, Zionists are not fans of TrackAIPAC. But unfortunately, there is more people who are not fans of TrackAIPAC. Now, of course, when I say that, I'm referring to that section of the left. Whatever we call them is obviously up to you, but we all know the type. the ones who spend all their time bashing the bigger left-wing factions for perceived betrayal of alleged principles. Even if the betrayals are, let's just say, bullshit. And this has always been a thing in leftist circles. All the way back in 1920, when Lenin wrote Left-Wing Communism, an Infantile Disorder, linked down below, pointing out that even then, people were claiming that Lenin was betraying real communism by advocating for things like unions. This is a thing that's always existed on the left and will unfortunately continue to do so, even as we change who gets to be one of the good ones. In 2025, people, even communists, will tout Eugene Debs as a magical icon of the political left. But in his heyday, he was denounced by many of these same ideologues for being one of those dreaded reformists. They will cheer for Lula or Chavez or Morales when their alleged ideologues in the nations themselves will denounce them for being reformers. They'll say they're different, but they're not. Will they offer any alternatives? Nope. Why would they? That's not their plan. Their only goal is to tear down the more popular left-wing contemporaries because of jealousy that one is more popular than the other. And yes, that's usually what it really boils down to. It can be dressed in whatever ideological mumbo-jumbo you think you're saying, but that's just part of the issue. I'm so pure, and yet how come I'm not getting so popular? And rather than looking inwards and thinking, maybe if I change things up, I too can be popular, they project all their problems on perceived traitors and will say anything to prevent them from getting anywhere. And apparently, that has happened with TrackAIPAC, with two alleged controversies, really technically one-ish, but boiled down to kind of 2 points, I guess, to make you, quote-unquote, question how good TrackAIPAC is. Both of whom are coming from figures that are, let's just say, you'll know them when I say them. The first controversy came from Zay Squirrel. For those who don't know who that is, Zay Squirrel is a Twitter user that posts videos and tweets being critical of everyone to their right, which means they also sometimes critique left-wing politicians. Okay, that's fine. You're allowed to critique left-wing politicians. They're not always right, and sometimes they make a little bit of a mistake. Oh, what's that? They call AOC AOCIA? And seem to imply that Bernie Sanders and AOC are just as bad as Richie Torres and John Fetterman? Huh. And what ended up happening was that they got a bit mad that TrackAIPAC had an Act Blue page to fundraise for candidates like AOC, alleging that having an Act Blue page means that they are getting money from the Democratic Party. They aren't. Act Blue is a fundraising service to give money to Democratic candidates, which they openly say they do. Like, they have an endorsed candidate slate, and they are going to give the money to them, I assume, or I guess, keep the activities of the site afloat. Oh yeah? Well, much like those two, they're only sheepdogging people back into the Democratic Party, which is why they're only endorsing Democrats. So, Kshama Sawant's a Democrat now? Because TrackAIPAC is backing her against a Democrat. And the reason why they're mostly backing Democrats is because, newsflash, we in the United States have this thing called a two-party system. So unless you are in a very specific circumstance, leftists have to run as Democrats. That's the unfortunate truth of the situation. And since Kshama Sawant happens to be in a very specific circumstance, being in a jungle primary state, there is a shot for her to make it in the general election, despite her not being a Democrat. And I'm sure if some races in California looked promising for other candidates, they'd vocally support some third-party options with egregious Zionist Democrats. But the problem is, even then, it's not likely that they'll make it through. It's better in the long run for everybody to run as a Democrat. That is the truth of the matter. But unequivocally, unfathomably true. Jimmy Gomez has run against a Green Party candidate, a Democrat at least 3 times and is going to run against another Democrat next election. Kenneth Mejia, the Green, did not win, obviously. The other 3 people didn't, like David Kim, he didn't win those 3 times either, but David Kim got closer than Kenneth Mejia did, and then Kenneth Mejia stopped being a Green and started running as a Democrat, and he won automatically. Jabari Brisport ran as a Green, and then the next election ran as a Democrat, and won. Like, we don't live in a system where that can happen. Well, why don't you guys just build the third-party infrastructure so that it's possible? Because that will take a long time that we don't have. Hey guys, newsflash. There's genocide in Gaza going on right now. Right now. We don't have time to build a third party to help Gazans in like 10 years. Because that's like the generous outlook. Bernie Sanders spent 10 years building a political party in the smallest state in the fucking union, and that even then, it took time. It took time to do that. We want to build a nationwide campaign? That's going to take a long ass time. We don't have that time. The environment is not going to wait. The fucking, the climate crisis isn't going to wait. The medical crisis isn't going to wait. The Palestinians aren't going to, stop dying until, a situation is solved out. We don't have time to build a third-party infrastructure. And while we're at the point where I'm asking questions about, the build third-party infrastructure, I have a question. Why the fuck aren't you doing it? No. Scratch that. Why the fuck weren't you doing this beforehand? You claim this is such a massive issue that you guys care so passionately about, but where the fuck were you before? I was on this channel advocating for green and independent candidates all throughout 2018, 2019, 2020. I did that all the time. I backed them sometimes too, but I also backed a lot of greens. I backed a lot of independents. I was actively telling people we need to pay attention to the Green Party primary because there's a good chance we're going to be backing their candidate after Bernie Sanders doesn't do so hot. I'm still a believer in the dirty break strategy of the DSA. Again, I was there. I was waiting for all you guys to come down here with me to help build this third party that we were so desperately yearning for. And I was open to all the strategies. I was open to building a new party. I was open to building the Green Party. I was open to taking over the Dems. I was open to all the strategies. My favorite was taking over the Greens, but I was like, I'm open to all of them. Let's see where this goes in a couple years. And by 2020, it was made abundantly clear the DSA strategy won out. So I joined DSA. I'm like, we got to do the DSA strategy. DSA strategy is clearly the one working. They got the most members. They got the most votes. They're clearly doing more infrastructure than we are doing. But the second that we start doing that, now all of a sudden you guys are like, oh, hold on. We're going to stop everything we're doing right now. And we need to back a third party now. Where the fuck were you? I was there. I saw all of you people. I saw every single one of you. Not a peep in between the presidential elections. I cringe at being like that, one of those fucking cringe third party people back in the day, but I can't cringe too hard because at least I was fucking doing something. I was interviewing third-party candidates who were trying to win their nominations for president. I was actively trying to make sure that the Green Party primary process was fair and that it was a viable party for us to build an infrastructure in. I was doing that beforehand. Where the fuck were all of you? But this controversy ended up leading to TrackAIPAC to get hashtag canceled for being Zionist shills for citation needed, but whatever. And then Zai to create their own Zionist tracker, which is significantly worse than TrackAIPAC because literally all they do is post X celebrity is a Zionist, which isn't as poignant as X politician takes $1 million from AIPAC last year. And to be fair, TrackAIPAC does as well, and I'm not really a fan of that either. Look, it's this candidate is allowed in president. It's okay. That's not really as poignant as hey, this candidate receives this much money from the AIPAC lobby. If a candidate receives lobbying money from AIPAC, then yeah, that's one thing. And I know that some of that information is not as readily available as a real politician currently elected. But you get my point. It's not as poignant. But ultimately, at the end of the day, this doesn't really mean anything. It's wow, a person got mad at TrackAIPAC and made a separate TrackAIPAC. Wow, cool. The second one is, I don't know if this is more important or less important. I don't know. And it comes from the fake cosplay revolutionary Bad Empanada. And Bad Empanada is a figure, I just gotta be real, like, he's a figure that I kind of ping pong on, like, I said this before, I said this in my fucking, like, Bad Empanada video where everybody goes, like, haha, you said vaguely ethnic, haha, yeah, blah, blah, funny, haha. But, like, the actual point that I was making is that his videos are good, he's kind of like a cringe person, but whatever. Like, the ultimate truth is, like, a lot of these left-wing YouTubers, you gotta, like, most people don't give a shit about them as people, you just care about the content. It's like, yeah, and that's kind of like me, it's kind of like me for real. I mean, basically, like, that's basically, like, my bread and butter, like, that's why I barely have any face reveals, because, like, the point is, like, I care more about, like, my work than I care about, like, the man behind the work, I guess. That and, like, the slight element of privacy, but, like, whatever, again, it's a lot more of the former than the latter, but the latter is part that is prevalent. I guess there's also a third reason, but I'm not going to get into that, because, again, that's more of, like, a personal thing, I guess. And if I got into that, that would detract from the whole point I'm making, but, like, you get my point. Like, but back to Bad Empanada, he revealed a quote-unquote massive bombshell that allegedly proved that, like alongside what Zai Squirrel did, to prove that TrackAIPAC is actually a liberal Zionist psyop, just like AOC, Bernie Sanders, and Zohran Mamdani. And just like that, you lost me. Like, the second, I mean, guys, the fact that, like, the fact that you guys immediately then put Zohran Mamdani as a liberal Zionist shill or whatever is like, you lost me. Like, that's the big problem that I have with all these people. It's like, oh, Bernie Sanders and AOC, like, if they're associated with Bernie Sanders and AOC, they're automatically, like, a fake loser or whatever. It's like, what? Like, even Zai Squirrel doesn't do that. I don't know if they do it with Mamdani, but, like, they don't do it with, like, Rashida and Cory Bush or Ilhan Omar. It's like, shocker, each of these candidates are different people and have very different views in regards to this. Like, even among themselves, they have different views. Bernie Sanders is a lot more of a Zionist than AOC is. Like, he's a lot more generally supportive of Israel than AOC is. And AOC is a little bit more supportive of Israel than, say, someone like Mamdani, who is, I guess, for all intents and purposes, like Zohran Mamdani is truly an anti-Zionist. I don't understand where the controversy comes from where you're like, oh, he's actually a Zionist. Because, like, what? He, like, denounced Hamas one time? Like, what? So what? But, like, let's hear it. What's the actual thing that he's trying to prove? Well, through massive tech work, they were able to figure out that TrackAIPAC's page used to be a page called Warren Democrat, where he or she posted some Elizabeth Warren page. Like, they backed, like, Elizabeth Warren for president in 2020. Okay. Like, Bad Empanada, you're not even like a Bernie bro. You hate Bernie Sanders, so I don't understand why supporting Elizabeth Warren is a deal breaker for you. Like, I mean, I was a Bernie Sanders supporter in his two bids, and the one where, like, both of them where Elizabeth Warren stabbed him in the back. Like, I mean, I have a vested reason to, like, be like, oh, they backed Elizabeth Warren, they're a betrayer, but you don't. You lived in Australia and then moved to Argentina, and you're, like, cosplaying as, like, some big revolutionary, like, I'm the real cool leftist. I say, like, oh, I can't say the things that I think we should do to save the world. Like, okay, cool, you're leftier now. You get a pat on the back. Dude. Wow. And as we all know, every single person that has supported a candidate at any point in their lives, they are just completely 100% in favor of everything that candidate has ever said and done. And there is absolutely no way that they could have changed their mind on any of the things they have said ever. Moreover, since time is not linear, there is no way that anything could have happened between then and now that could have possibly made an Elizabeth Warren supporter maybe start thinking, maybe the Zionist lobby having a lot of control of the United States politics is actually a bad thing. And maybe I should dedicate my page to focusing on tracking this, like, lobbying group. Like, bro, they're not even the first Warren Dem to be radicalized on Palestine. Calla Walsh was a Warren Dem alumni. Now she literally writes in Hamas leaders in every election through smoke bombs in an Israeli-owned Massachusetts business military contractor, and went on Iranian state media to say morgue bar to 2 specific states in the world. Which 2 states? Well, I think you can take a guess which 2 they are. Look, I get it, dude. Not everybody can be as based as me when I called the Palestinian genocide a genocide back in 2019, but I'm not going to judge everyone else for not living up to that standard. I more care about what they're doing now, and right now, TrackAIPAC is posting all of the, lobbying money that is being received by politicians, by the Zionist lobby. That's a good thing. Like, this, again, this is the thing. This is one of the big things why this is stupid. Like, this is, way more stupid to me than any of the other shit that I've ever seen ever in regards to politics because of this fact. TrackAIPAC is a Twitter account that posts the amount of AIPAC money that every member of Congress gets. Bro, it's not that deep. Like, literally, that's all they do. You want them to be better? Do that, but don't do the things that they do? Like, what? Like literally, I just don't get it. It's like, that's their duty. That is their job. That's what they do. They post pictures online and make AIPAC look bad. That's a good thing, right? Like, what? I really don't fucking get it. All you guys want to do is fucking complain. Oh, you guys are so mad and that we don't have an independent force outside of the Democratic Party? Like, I'm just saying, I've been saying that for almost 10 years now, and yet none of us have gotten remotely close to even starting the work to do that, apparently. Shit on TrackAIPAC or any other person doing the Democrat Party sheepdogging all you want. Literally, all TrackAIPAC is saying is, here are some candidates you can back. Donate here or go to their pages. Here's how you can help them, etc. What the fuck are you doing? Complaining on Twitter? Stop complaining, get off your ass, and do something. Like, for real, like, I shit on I shit on a lot of these people because literally all of them, and again, you could say, but you know better. Yeah, I know I'm not better. I'm not better. That's the point. I don't shit on people doing better. Like, the people who were protesting about Kamala Harris not being good enough, I didn't shit on them. Like, I shit on the people who spent all day on Twitter complaining, Kamala Harris isn't good enough, Jill Stein 2024. Like, I was shitting on those people. I wasn't shitting on the people who were, like, going on the streets and actually fucking protesting Kamala Harris on the fucking Gaza issue. Like, I've even gone so far to be like, I've even, like, technically stopped shitting on the PSL. I shot the PSL a lot of times prior because, you know, tanky party, blah, blah, blah. Like, but I don't shit on them anymore because they're doing shit. They protest against Israel. They protest against ISIS fascism. They're actually doing shit. I don't get to shit on people who are doing better. It's even more pathetic because the people that you claim are like so inferior on the issue, AOC, Bernie Sanders, and like the squad, like left-leaning Democrats, they've done shit ton more on the issue than any of you fucking online pundits have done. Moreover, if you want to somehow claim you're doing better than them, well, I got a news flash for you guys. There's a good chance that you guys wouldn't even be in the position you are in right now if it wasn't for those two. So that sucks for you too. You owe your entire lifestyle to them. And instead of doing anything even remotely like, oh, we can like acknowledge that, move forward, and then actually at least try to be better and actually do better things. No, you instead want to just shit on like the bigger people because, again, you have no basis and no actual plan to do anything better than what they could ever do. But anyways, TrackAIPAC, they're pretty good. I like them. I think they're fine. It was a cringe for you to endorse Warren over Bernie, but you know, whatever. I guess if there's another election, if there is one, you know, we'll probably be back at the same person that time. You know, I'm just saying. Thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and click the bell to find out future video when it comes out. And if you need more content from me, consider supporting me on Patreon.